Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. We make Chris Skinner's Countryside podcast, and we've got something very exciting to share with you. We have a new service that's being launched, and it's called Spoken Stories.
Spoken Stories is all about recording the voices and memories of your loved ones in outstanding quality, so they can be enjoyed for generations to come. For example, you know the story that Grandma tells that everyone in the family has heard before. Well, Spoken Stories is about getting those stories down and preserving them for your family history. Spoken Stories is about gifting someone the time to capture these personalities and unique voices.
We record your loved ones' tales, whether it's their whole life story so far or something more specific like a life-changing event. It is a gorgeous experience, and what you're left with is a beautiful monologue that really captures the essence of that person.
Think of it like an audio portrait, and take a listen to a snippet of this one from Diane's spoken story, recorded in her beautiful garden.
I was born in 1951 at Newmarket, and unfortunately I didn't see Mum for a year. I was looked after by a lovely nurse called Diane, my name, because my mum had TB when I was born. And so my mother never worked because with her problem with her, lungs, she had to go and have it sort of pumped up every so often. She used to do a lot of dressmaking, so she always made our clothes years ago. But yeah, she was a lovely mum, yeah, and Dad as well, yeah. That's very nice childhood I had, yeah, very nice. Yeah. I got married February the 16th, 1974. The weather was gorgeous. I ended up having to put on a big sort of T-shirt under my wedding dress I didn't need. I had a lovely one of those transparent umbrellas in case it rained, and it was just a beautiful day. I think I'm always sort of quite cheerful. I mean, if I go down the Luke and deliver some eggs to somebody, I'll meet somebody and chat, and then Paul say, "Where have you been?" I said, "I've been chatting to people." That's just my way. That's just how I am. We've always lived here. We had this built in 1974. They put the footings down in February and we moved in the August. Years ago, I used to go around the village on a bike, and when I had Ian, he'd sit on the back. We live in a lovely area. We've got lovely neighbours. They help us all out, which you all do with neighbours, and that's very, very nice. And as I said to Paul, I'm hoping we can keep this place on until, well, I don't want to move from here until I go out in a brown box. I hope that's not too soon.
If you'd like more information about Spoken Stories and to take advantage of our special introductory offer, you can head to www.soundyard.org/spoken stories.
And keep listening after this episode with Chris, and you'll hear another example of a spoken story. It's a view of the world from a 6-year-old.
Chris Skinner's Countryside podcast with Matthew Gudgeon.
It's a lovely late summer's afternoon, quite low sun, and it's about 5 o'clock in the evening in actual fact, here at High Ash Farm, where we're here to see Chris Skinner for the Countryside podcast. Lovely rolling hills on this part of the farm, and we've come to a pond which I don't think I've ever been to before.
No, Matthew, it's really, really ancient. It's probably here since Roman times, and certainly since Anglo-Saxon times. It's not a huge pond, and it's in the middle of the heaviest clay field on the farm.
Look at the clay is just all cracked.
Yes, I was going to show you that in a minute because it's so dry. This part of eastern England, East Anglia, we've only had 3 millimetres so far of rain in August, and so basically the farm's drought stricken, but because this is heavy clay, it's kept its water in, and there's common pondweed out in the middle with the leaves floating, and rats having a drink because it's good clean water. The wind is blowing. We might have some rain later this afternoon, which will be very, very welcome. And there's a little flat nest out over the water, and that's a moorhen's nest.
Oh yes, just below that foliage there.
And just as we arrived, 2 adult moorhens scooched off under the undergrowth.
What is that bird there, just feeding?
Oh, it's a goldfinch having a drink. Oh, well spot. Look at that. Beautiful Band of Gold. Frida Payne's song, Band of Gold, springs to mind. But it's also called a clown face because a bright red face and absolutely stunning. Cardulus, the scientific name.
There's undergrowth that's sort of out onto the pond
Yes.
there, and it's just perched.
Yes.
Oh, it was.
It was there. This is my mobile bird scare. Let me introduce Rat to everybody who's not met him before. The delinquent terrier. No, that's quite... Come here. That's because I'm talking to you, and believe it or not, he's got jealous. Come here. I'll pick you up. That sorts that problem out. Or I'll throw him in the pond and see if he can swim. But on the other side of High Ash Farm, we have an Anglo-Saxon cemetery. And the urns were made from clay, we think, from this pond. So it goes back many hundreds of years. The field's called Dirty Close. We had a brief encounter with it last week because I've planted a row of rowan trees on the east side of it, right by Caister Lane. And this is incredible soil underneath us. It's blue clay.
Rock solid at the moment.
It is, because the water table's only sort of 18 inches down. It's fantastic soil for wheat. It grows really, really good crops of wheat. But the moorhens love this pond. It's big enough territory for them to hold. And 2 adults, when we arrived, skirted off into the undergrowth around the edge of the pond. And there was a grey moorhen, a juvenile with them as well, about half grown, and then at the last moment 2 little furry black chicks disappeared behind parents and an older brother and sister.
So they're under there at the moment.
They're under there. They're well covered, and they nest out on the water, and they're quite territorial. Had a camera here, and they've even been attacking the local mallard, which like to land in this pond. You can see in the water's a little bit cloudy, and the mallard are upside downing and putting their beaks on the bottom. But I'm just going to show you something amazing, because I used to spend half my childhood on the edge of this pond. There is fish in there. There's a few roach as well, and it's never dried out, even in 1976. But I'm just going to show you something. Let's see if we can put this dog on the ground and see if he'll let me do this. There we go. I'm just going to go down into the water and get a little handful of the clay, grey-blue colour, and it is incredibly fine. In the past, out on High Ash Farm, I've got you to put some between your fingers, the sandy soil, and it's like sandpaper. This is completely opposite. I don't know if you want to try it, but you'd have to wash your hands in the pond after. You can see it's completely, there's not a grit, no grain in it whatsoever, and it's just coated my fingers in grey. It's perfect pottery clay, and that's why the Saxons used it to make their urns. Then they cooked the urns and put all sorts of designs on them, and then buried their dead, the remains of the dead, the bones and any artefacts in with them in the urns, and they buried the neck of the urn level with the ground so that the spirits didn't have so far to travel, and it's done on top of a hill on the other side of the farm. It's a registered Anglo-Saxon cemetery.
So would you be able to dig out china clay from just about anywhere on this field?
On this farm, yes, on this particular field. It's really, really, it's actually quite sort of funny. You could use it as a face mask. I can see both of us now. Look, and it's already started to dry. You can see it's going very pale, but you need to heat it up. And I used to come here with my sisters, and we'd take a sort of pot home each, filled with this wet clay, and then make all sorts of things.
Mud pies.
Yeah, mud. Well, we were slightly more ornate than that, but my mum when she'd finished cooking Sunday lunch or something like that, we'd put them in the oven afterwards because it was already hot. Look at that, though. Now, there's a problem with clay. It grows great crops because it's water retentive. You can see the water table's only a foot beneath what we're kneeling on. So I'm just going to put my hand back in and wash this off.
There are thousands of little black dots in the water as well.
Yes, there is. There are some of the insects that are floating about on there, which is ideal food for the fish.
Really rich with life.
Yes,
This,
it
at first sight, an unprepossessing watering hole.
Yes,
there.
but little ponds like this scattered over the landscape are hugely important. Obviously, it's a source of water, but lots of birds come down here. You can see where they go down the shallow edge there and have a bathe. But when clay gets dry, particularly at this time of the year, let's just walk out a little bit. I'm now going to take you on. We don't need to walk very far. Here's crazy paving.
Yes.
The clay has shrunk. Now, if I'd have been clever enough to bring a cane with me, I would be able to pop it down, and I could get it down perhaps a couple of feet.
Well, I can get my fingers easily in there.
Yes, yeah.
And right down to the knuckle.
Yes, and no
Wow.
problem at all. And it goes right down. We now have a horse come to visit us. And,
Why the long face?
So Rat's object. I will have to pick him up again.
Rat's giving away a bit of weight in that contest, isn't
I
he?
think so, but terriers have no fear. They don't work out size. They argue first and regret later, and very much so in Rat's case.
Beautiful chestnut. He's just not that bothered, really.
No, he's
Rat
not
is.
bothered. Perhaps they were checking us out in case we'd brought some polos or other mints are available. But the ground, when clay gets dry, it shrinks, and it's quite a problem. And also, it lets even more moisture out of it. So it can be a problem, although the water table's usually, in this case, probably 18 inches beneath us. But you can almost wobble these huge, big slabs.
These
It
are
is
like
just
tectonic plates.
Yes,
aren't they?
it is. Yes. Now, on clay soils, there is a weed, a plant, which grows, which called wild oats. And wild oats are really clever because they wait for the clay to crack like this, and then when there's a shower of rain, all of them, if they're in a wild oat plant, perhaps 100 seeds with a little aum coming out at the end of the seed, they all twist in the parent plant, drop on the ground, and of course these cracks are open at that time of year, harvest time, which is now mid to late August, and the soil then closes in over them, and they will germinate over in the winter or early next spring, and you have wild oats springing up here, there and everywhere. So there we are.
You have been known to sow them.
I was going to crack out with that joke, but I did so much wild oat sowing as a young farmer, I think that's best we don't talk about that.
It's not that sort of podcast, this.
No, that's right. So it's always interesting, and peat soils will do the same. They will crack and let the moisture out, and also the peat gradually reduces as well. It kind of oxidizes, and the level in the fens is continually dropping until you get to a layer like this, the clay, and this is pretty well stable, although it just looks like crazy paving. It looks like there's been a ginormous earthquake here, doesn't it? And the ground has heaved up and opened up. But you're right, I can get my fingers, even my sausages on the end of my palms, I can get them quite a way down those huge cracks. So there we are, something really valuable in front of us. That tiny pond is a source of water up on top of a hill as well, deep clay underneath us, and it's incredibly valuable for all the wildlife here at High Ash.
Only been here a few minutes, saw a goldfinch, water hen, and also all those millions of insects as well.
Yes, and I did have a shock. We had a whole busload of Canadian and American farmers arrive at the farm, and because the farm's only a square mile, that's called a section in the United States, and 640 odd acres, and nothing much had impressed them, and they were getting back on the coach to go, and one of the gentlemen, he shouted out to his wife, who was already in the coach, "Good God, Mabel, there's a poodle do." And he was quite excited about this. And it took me a long time to work out what poodle do was. And of course they speak French in Canada, and it's poulet de, water hen, hen of the water. And I've never forgotten it.
So
And
all your moor hens, water hens are poodle doos.
Poodle doos, that's right. I've never forgotten.
The ducks at High Ash Farm going in to roost for an evening. Hey everyone, it's Matthew here, and if you've been enjoying our countryside podcasts, we've got a small favour to ask.
Yes, Matthew. What we're going to do is to ask for a small donation to help run the podcast, and any surplus goes for conservation at High Ash Farm here. And so it's really important. We both love to keep the podcast going, and that duck agrees with me, I think.
Well, it's straightforward to donate. You can make a one-off donation or set up a small monthly contribution, and the address is highashfarm.com/podcast.
We're hugely grateful for any support. It means we can keep sharing the stories of the countryside, which I love doing each week, but it's that small amount of costs we need to cover. So thank you very much in advance.
Sun glinting through the trees here in a patch of woodland on the farm, which we often visit. Silly me, I put my sunglasses on today so I can barely see a thing, Chris, but you better tell us what's happening.
Oh, Matthew, I'm absolutely bursting to do this piece of the Countryside podcast. I've had to be biting my tongue for the best part of 6 weeks, and I'm going to call it a 3, 2, 1. Because there are 3 species of woodpecker in the UK, the largest being the green woodpecker, the medium-sized one, the one you might see in your garden eating peanuts over the winter months, that's the great spotted woodpecker, Dendrocoppus major, and the rarest, as rare as hen's teeth, the lesser spot woodpecker, and that's Dendrocoppus minor in the bird book if you like to look up the scientific names. And very few areas of woodland in East Anglia, or in fact in the UK, will host all 3 species, which is why I said I'm going to do a 3, 2, 1. And we're going to start off with the largest one, which until about 2 to 3 weeks ago, all 3 species were nesting. But because the lesser spot is so prone to disturbance, I couldn't bring you here, although I was itching to. So there's a giant ash tree in front of us, and if you look up about 20 feet and at about 12 feet as well, the trouble is we're looking into the light. There are 2 holes, and it's 3-inch diameter. 3, 2, 1. So
got it. Yeah.
So that's nearly big enough to put a clenched fist in.
Those are quite large holes, aren't
Yes, yeah. And so really the green woodpecker's a bit of an odd one out, because it spends more time out on the fields, on the ground, because its favourite food is ants, and it kind of gorges them. It's got a very long tongue. It's also called locally, particularly in Norfolk and East Anglia, it's called the yaffle, and some people call it the rainbird as well. It's called the yaffle because of the sound it makes, and I often hear it when I'm coming through this area of woodland early in the morning. It's a kind of descending series of notes like that. If I do it too often, we might have one actually. Oh, it's called Rat anyway. He's come running along, and so that's number 3. So the 3-inch diameter hole from the largest of the 3 of our native woodpecker species. They're all got similar traits and habits, but the great spot will do lots of drumming. The lesser spot drums as well, so they're the proper woodland drummer birds. And the green spotted, the green woodpecker, I should say, doesn't really do much drumming. It will just peck away at a hole. All of them got kind of chisel ends on their beak, and one distinctive feature which distinguishes them from birds like nuthatches, which are also tree climbing birds, tree nesting birds in holes as well, is one of the toes on a woodpecker, because in most birds 3 toes face forwards and 1 toe faces backwards, but in woodpeckers one of the toes has migrated to face the wrong way. So you've got 2 forwards and 2 backwards on woodpecker feet. It's called zygodactylia. It's a particular condition where one of your digits migrates round. So it's really sort of odd. But that's the largest of the 3 species. And we've had, I think, 3 green woodpecker nests in this woodland, which is 30 acres. It's actually bigger than that because there's another 20 acres that extends on the other side of the road, and that's in the grounds of Caister Hall Hotel. Nevertheless, it's a good chunk of woodland which woodpeckers like. So we've got to hop back in the little truck, and it's such a short distance, but we're not leaving this woodland. So hop back in and let's get Rat in as well.
Oh, there he is.
He's here.
Straight into the footwell.
Good boy. Come on, I'll pick you up. There we are. There we are. Good, off we go.
Okay, we've come a little distance. We're still in the trees.
I am so proud of this, I cannot tell you. The excitement is almost too much for me. I'm just looking at this tree because I think this is got to find. There we are. Just about 15 feet up. You can see number 2, the 2-inch round hole, 50 millimetres. Can you just see where that dead branch comes out facing above our head? It's immediately under that. Good, you should.
Oh yes, got
You've
it.
got it.
Got
Excellent.
it. Yes,
well
yes.
done. It is, because it's just on the dark side of the tree. The sun's getting low over in the west, and this is facing nearly due south.
I'm wearing these shades.
Yes, that's not helpful. So,
Yes, but I've got it. Yes, there it is. A black hole, but much smaller than the other.
Yes, it's about half the size. So that's the 2-inch diameter one, and this is the hole of the great spot woodpecker. And that's the one, as I said, you're likely to see in your garden feeding on nuts. And so the habitat here is absolutely perfect for them. We've got lots of different species of trees, lots of dead trees, dead standing trees. Look, there's a huge silver birch there. 3 above us, which all died after the drought a couple of years ago when we had those high temperatures. And so there's a whole mix of living and dead trees here, and it's absolutely perfect for them, and a variety of trees. Sweet chestnut seems to be a favourite for nesting in, and also oak. So if there's some sort of hollow in the oak tree, which we don't know about, the woodpeckers seem able to find it, and they drill away there, but not the drumming that you will hear in the canopy in late February, March and April. That's territorial drumming by the lesser spot and the great spot. That's not how they make these holes. They just peck away, and the tip of the beak is chisel ended. It's not sharp like a normal bird's beak, and at the last second they just twist their head slightly and take out tiny little flakes, bearing in mind that's an oak tree and it's gone through into the hollow into the centre of the tree there.
And the sound is something wonderful, isn't it? Very percussive and
Yes.
hollow sounding.
Yes, when they're drumming and setting out territories, that's the male. That would be a grrr noise like that, whereas the drilling the hole is a sort of just continual sort of tap, and you'll often hear the sound, and then if you're standing near the tree you'll see little flakes of wood coming out, and it's the hardest wood. You need a carpenter's chisel to get in there. So amazing birds, and they have a specially designed sort of percussion shock at the back of the head to, when they're drumming, territorial sounding in other words, to prevent them getting a headache.
Well, it'd be concussion like we get, but
Yeah.
they don't get it because
No, that's right. They've got a special sort of gelatinous area at the back of the head, and the tongue is out of the way as well. The tongue comes through a little hollow in the bottom of the beak in the case of the green woodpecker, and they can extend that out, and the tongue is quite amazing in the green woodpecker. It's a good 4 inches long. That's 100 millimeters, and for a small bird you can't make this up. So that's why our wildlife native to our country, and these 3 species of woodpecker are just that, is just mind-blowing. Now, this is extraordinary in the bird world. It's just a short walk because the habitat is so suitable. We've got them nesting quite close to each other, and this is going to be difficult for us. I'm going to put you so the sun is just behind the tree. There's your number 1, and that's index finger hole size. Are you able to see it? It's
how high up are we
we're
talking?
20 feet up.
Yes, there's a long way up. Yes, I've got it, yes.
You've got a dead branch coming out on the right, and then above that, and it's a perfectly sound oak tree.
Yes.
You can just see as a single hole, and you can see it's fairly fresh. It's not me gone up there with a ladder and a high drill, I promise you, because one other person watched the lesser spot. It's also called the barred woodpecker because the plumage goes across from side to side on it. It's a tiny little bird, bearing in mind that is 1 inch diameter hole. It's not even 30 millimeters across, and that bird can go in and out of that hole quite easily. So they're astonishingly small birds, and one really clever bird watcher had gone up and down the road. He'd heard one drumming here, he'd seen it, he'd photographed it, and he asked permission to come, and he's got a little gap through the hedge there, and he came through here and he's made himself a little path, and he used a little camouflage net and watched the parents fledge the young just over a week ago. They're quite late hatching, but they've gone now, which is why it's safe. And he impressed on me that one thing they don't like is disturbance, and he promised to behave himself and not disturb them. So,
Although, as we're about to hear,
yes,
that tree is right next to a road, but
It
I
is.
suppose they don't count that as disturbance.
no, because it's regular. It's a very, because it's sort of late in the afternoon, it's knocking off time in Norwich.
Oh, it's a
Everybody's-
small lane,
Yes,
isn't it?
it's tiny. It's a single track lane, and so that's a huge success story. As I said, there's very few places in the eastern counties where you can actually see a lesser spot woodpecker, the barred woodpecker, Dendrocopus minor. Very few places, and in the whole UK it's almost unique, this area of woodland, to have all 3 species of woodpecker in one area of woodland. My chest is puffed out so far, although it's nothing to do with me, it's to do with the habitat, natural history. You can't put a sign up on a tree saying suitable for lesser spot woodpeckers, please come and nest here, and it doesn't work like that. And one thing they don't like, apparently, this very keen and very well-known bird watcher told me, he said, if you shoot in this wood, you will lose your woodpeckers. They don't like the sound of shooting and bang. And of course, there's been no shooting here for well over 25 years now, hence all 3 species of woodpeckers. I won't say they're common as muck, but I am so proud to have them in one area of woodland, and they're at High Ash Farm.
3, 2, 1.
Exactly. That's the 1 inch diameter hole, under 30 millimeters diameter. I've got the finger next to my index finger would just about fit in there. That's a sausage-sized farmer's finger, I know, but quite diminutive little birds. So I like to call them barred woodpeckers just because of the stripes going across the back from side to side, and they do have a little bit of red on them as well, as does the great spot and the green woodpecker. They've all got that red, little blood red patches on them. So there we are. You are absolutely spoilt, Gudgeon.
It's another reason for you to be very proud of this part of the farm, because where we're standing, near the tree, there, a cricket ball's throw away is a badger's set.
Yes.
Which I know is one of your real pride and joys.
Right, and I've
isn't
got 2 cameras down there, and we've had quite a late, I was going to call them a hatching. I don't know what you call young badgers, cubs. It's quite late. They actually came out. There's already been 4 cubs early on in the year, and they left and messed around in the set in about May time. But then 4 more young appeared, or what we thought was 4, and the cameras last night picked up 6 young badgers, and they are a load of delinquents, and I managed to capture them, and it'll be on High Ash Farm Facebook page for this Sunday's podcast.
I've seen the footage, and they're all having a punch up.
Well, they do.
It's quite rough and tumble, I think.
Exactly, but it's done in a playful way, because that's how you learn your field craft, fighting with your brothers and sisters. And my sisters used to scratch, which wasn't fair, but they really go for it, and you'll be able to enjoy that. I'll see if I can get a bit more to add tonight, but I've already got 30 seconds just with them all arriving, just tumbling about, and they really do look like delinquents. So they run across the tree and play on some branches and bash each other. And you do have to sort of smile when you learn about the wildlife we share our country with. It's terrific.
Well, I've been lucky enough to see the footage. It's stunning, and I would advise anyone to look on the Facebook page for High Ash Farm and have a look. It's all in the dead of night.
Yes.
You see the eyes glowing,
Yes.
but the wonders of technology display everything.
Yes, absolutely. The modern cameras, I've learned how to use them. But there we are. It'll be on the Facebook page and for everybody to enjoy.
And these modern cameras, is it a box brownie?
Yeah, but sort of, yes. No, it's a 127, the next model.
Walking through here, Chris, you said last week that we were going to be talking about Drupes.
Yes, that was Drupes. That's what my headmaster called me at school.
Skinner, yeah.
Skinner, you're a drip. No, Drupes this week, and everybody would think these are berries in front of us. I've got an orchard at the farmhouse. It's the sad sort of remains, if you like, of 12 cedar trees which blew over in 1987, and in 1988 I planted Victorias and Czars, and the crop is so heavy this year, it's absolutely incredible. And so there's over 1/2 ton of Victorias, many of which will end up on the ground. And this is the forerunner of our domestic plums, things like Victorias and Czars, Rivers as well. And these are the fruit of the blackthorn. And I call them fruit because that's what they are, but they're called Drupes because they're members of the plum family. And if I get one of them, you can see they're deep blue, and they've got a kind of sort of bloom all over them, which if I just do that with my
comes off, doesn't it?
It comes off, and you've got this jet black little miniature plum. I won't ask you to bite one because your shoulders go up round your ears. They are so bitter at this time of the year, and really as the season goes on they stay on bushes like this, which is a blackthorn thicket, and sloes are the fruit of the blackthorn, and they're one of the last kind of fruit to be eaten by the winter visiting thrushes because they're so bitter they can tend to get left to the last minute before they're eaten.
So these Drupes, they're sloes?
Yes, they're sloes. And
the people know them from a certain
slow gin,
yes.
which is my speciality, and I'll probably make some for you later on, but they'll soon need picking because they were suffering from drought in East Anglia, which is funny because other parts of the UK are being deluged with lots. And it's a fantastic plant. It's covered, it's called blackthorn because of the colour of the wood. If I scrape away some of the lichen on there, it's almost black, which gives it a very dark appearance. And it's armed from the bottom of the plant. We're halfway up this one, about 6 feet. You can see sort of little modified stems covered in spikes. So
they're 1-inch nails sticking out, aren't they?
Really is the best way to describe them. So they're fearsome. But it's got a problem. Blackthorn you can plant it and it doesn't stay where you put it. And given half a chance, if it's in a meadow hedge, it will move out 5-6 feet in a year and then start a new thicket. So it kind of spreads outwards from where it's planted. So it's not much good as a stock-proof fence because it just won't stay where you plant it. Nevertheless, birds absolutely love it. And when it's like this, it's almost impenetrable. You'd have a job to get your hand in. So birds like chaffinches, goldfinches will nest in it, which we saw earlier, drinking at that pond. And lots of birds, long-tailed tits will nest in it as well with their little nest. And they're pretty well protected from lots of marauding birds which will sort of get to the nest if they possibly can. So there's a lot of protection. And now, if I get this little blackthorn and squeeze it, like all members of the plum, it's right soft all the way around the outside. So you've got the flesh, which is the bit with our domestic plums.
It's a very green interior, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes, and lots of moisture in there. Now comes the magic bit, which is the bit that if you're eating plums straight off the tree, you would spit the pip out, but the pip isn't the seed. That's the surprising thing.
Oh.
So the birds will eat this. So the little fleshy bit disappears down the bird's throat, complete berry, swallowed in one. Then you're left with this, which is a hard core, which is what gives it its name, a drupe. Now, inside that, if it was a Victoria plum, there would be a little almond-shaped seed inside the pip. This pip, little inedible bit, goes through the bird's alimentary canal and comes out to the other end, but in so doing it's exposed to all the grit in the bird's gizzards and it can then germinate, and that's how it gets itself about. So the birds then go to roost somewhere in a tree, perhaps nearby. This little seed, which is inside this hard core case, will then be able to germinate once it's gone through a bird's intestinal tract.
So if for some reason it just ends up on the floor, the berry and the seed is in it would never germinate?
Yes, it can do, because it can still, it might not germinate for a year or two, but remember, down on the woodland floor, all over and in the bottom of hedgerows, you've got an army of small mammals, and they will eat it as well. Although, it's pretty bitter. I would like to invite you to eat one of these, but I'm too kind because they are really bitter. But as the season goes on, they get attacked by moles, particularly if they're on the ground, and the mold starts to break down the sugars in the drupe, in the little miniature plum, if you like, and then it will start to ferment a little bit, and that still enables the little seed inside this pip to germinate. So all's not lost if it drops on the ground, and blackthorn is very good at self-perpetuating, either by these little nutlet seeds in the middle or by self-propagation under the ground. So there we are. I said we'd do drupes briefly, and this year it's a fantastic year because of the wet spring early on in the year. All over High Ash Farm we've got actually the hawthorn and the hips, the fruit of the dog rose, has just draped down to the ground. There's such a heavy crop there, so we're looking forward. It won't necessarily say there's going to be a hard winter or anything like that, but nevertheless, it shows that there's a good pollination time last March and April, and in May when the blackthorn was in flower as well. So there we are, something to look forward to, and you can see they're really colourful.
Yep. Lovely blue slowberries.
Slowberries, yes, I like it. Drupes.
Yes. Blackthorn berries.
Black with the blue hue on them, yes.
That reminds me of a man I used to know.
Yes.
Blue hue.
Excellent. Right, we've got some questions now, Matthew.
Yep, let's go and answer some. We'll go into the car because it has got a little windy since we arrived. Rat has leapt into the car before us, and lots of emails, so thank you to everyone who's contacted the Countryside podcast. Lovely to hear from you all. Let's try and answer as many as possible. Vicky Marks, hello to you. On my Norfolk drives and walks over the last few weeks, I've noticed a couple of things. Oak trees seem to have mildew on the leaves. I thought this was an isolated event, but realise it isn't. And secondly, most sycamores seem to have dead-looking branches, withered brown leaves, some just in the top of the tree and others throughout the tree. Are these both a result of lots of rain?
No, not really. This time of the year, I think about 2 or 3 podcasts ago, just before the 1st of August, I explained about the mildew on oak tree leaves. And it's got a special name because it happens at this time of the year. It's called lammas growth. And this time of the year, oak trees do a lot of their growth. They put out little spurs off the main branches of 6 inches to a foot long, and when they first come into leaf, there's no chlorophyll in the leaf. It's bright red. It's lacking chlorophyll completely, and that means that those fresh succulent growths are susceptible to mildew. The mildew then attacks the leaves before the chlorophyll arrives. Once the chlorophyll is there, it's a kind of almost antiseptic property to it, and it then gives the leaves the protection they need. So there we are. It's called lammas growth.
Great photo sent in by Stephen Taylor, who lives not far away from here in Norwich. Photo of a spider on its web with peculiar patterns, a sort of yellowish colour and black there as well. And Stephen wondering what it may be.
Yes, I've been harvesting yellow rattle on the farm, and I've managed to harvest 3 or 4 of these, which are called wasp spiders. It's one of those species of spider that has mimicry, and so it looks rather like that you wouldn't want to argue with it. It's brightly coloured yellow with black stripes and some white on it, and it's quite a large spider. It's across the leg span, it's about 1.5 inches across. The body's much smaller, but the abdomen, the last section of the spider, is highly coloured. It's also called St Andrew's or St Anthony's spider, the way it crosses its legs. They're nearly always crossed, and so it's quite interesting to actually see. And it got another name as well because of what it feeds on. It's called the zigzag spider, and it makes its web low down in grasses, particularly on the wildflower fields here at the farm, and it waits for grasshoppers or crickets to spring into the web, and then it eats them, and that's its favourite food. So part of the web has got a kind of extra strand in it, and it looks like a streak of lightning coming down through the web, and that gives the web even more elasticity. So very clever insect.
Wonderful close-up picture as well. Thank you for that, Stephen. And on to Christine Cousins. We had a wonderful surprise last week. Washing up the tea things, looked out of the window, saw a juvenile hare in our small front garden in Little Plumstead. He nibbled some grass, had a rest in amongst the flowers, hopped round for a little bit, and then just disappeared. He came back a couple of nights later, though. Is this because they've been harvesting in the nearby fields and the hares are seeking some shelter?
Yes, a juvenile hare is called a leveret. Leverets are born really at any time of the year, but particularly sort of April, May, June, July and August. That's the main part of the year hares will breed. They'll sometimes have 2 or 3 litters, sometimes 2 or 3 leverets in each litter as well, so they're quite prolific breeders. And the young tend to stay where they're born, particularly in the first part of their life, but beautiful, beautiful mammals. We did a hare count early here in the year, probably about March. I drove Matthew around one of the fields with a long rope behind the vehicle, and I think the total count, we did a hare census at High Ash Farm, was about 78 hares, adult hares, which is quite something.
More hares than I've got on the top of my head. You were too nice to say.
Yeah, I knew that, yes.
A picture coming in on the email from John Cook. Hello, John. And there's a picture of what looks to me like a caterpillar. This is on our fuchsia in a pot in our sunny garden in sunny Swanton Morley. What is it? Do we move it? Help!
No help required. It's not going to really do any harm apart from eat a few of the leaves on your fuchsia. That's not its favourite food. Its favourite food would be willow herb. There's rosebay willow herb, and there's codlins and cream, which is great willow herb, which grows in the streams and ditches here at High Ash Farm. And it's the elephant hawk moth, and it's a brilliant moth. The hawk moths are some of the most colourful in the moth book, if you like, and the elephant hawk moth has pink on its body, on its thorax and on its wings, and they're very vivid moths as well, quite short, stout-bodied moths, fast flyers, and they absolutely have these enormous caterpillars. They lay their eggs on their food plant, any one of those willow herb species, and that caterpillar, to give you an idea, is about 50 millimetres long, 2 inches long. Well done, beautiful picture, very descriptive, and you can always tell hawk moth caterpillars. Right on the last section of the caterpillar, there's a little horn, a little like a piece of ivory sticking up, looks quite ferocious, and it's called the elephant hawk caterpillar because the caterpillar can retract its head into its body, that's the pointed end, and it actually looks like the head of an elephant, which is how it got its name.
Well, let's stay with caterpillars. Hannah Morris. Hi, Hannah. She tells us that she's got 5 acres she's looking to develop for wildlife and make it more friendly, and she sounds like she's well on the way to that. I've recently developed an interest in the cinnabar moth caterpillar. They've been clearly enjoying the increased availability of ragwort this year. I'm worried, though, that if I mow my wildflower meadows mid-September, collect up all the cuttings and scarify, as is normally the advice, I'll accidentally kill the larvae, which I believe live just under the ground. I only had 6 caterpillars and am worried about them. I would be interested in your thoughts.
Well, the caterpillar is the progeny of the cinnabar moth there, and that's a sort of beautiful moth, again another species, but the caterpillars are particularly striking. They're yellow and black striped, and they're quite poisonous to birds as well. They feed on the ragwort, which is a fairly poisonous plant, especially to horses, and this year the ragwort appears more prolific than normal. It's actually fairly constant, its population, but what happened is spring and early summer was very, very wet. Ragwort frequents dry, sandy soil more often than not. It's a pioneering species, and so the ragwort is thrived more than normal, and so the tracts of yellow by the side of roads and in meadows and old marshland fields is more prominent this year. The caterpillars, once they're pupated, do just go into the ground an inch or two. You can cut and remove with safety without harming the larvae, the little chrysalis which will overwinter in the soil, but I would just not scarify the soil and disturb them, because usually they're only in the soil about an inch deep. So if you cut and remove, that's absolutely fine, and you won't hurt your little tiger tails. They're little black and orange or black and yellow striped caterpillars. They're quite striking.
Here's one from Ray Dumpleton, who lives in a suburban area of Manchester, but is a huge fan of swifts. Well, that's fortunate, isn't it? Swifts do like built-up areas, particularly if they can get their nests under the eaves. But you've been bemoaning, Chris, and Ray mentions it as well, the lack of swifts this year. Am I right in thinking, he says, this will have a knock-on effect for next year because so few will have fledged here, they generally return to their place of birth?
They do return to their place of birth, but there's a sort of bit of a silver lining to this particular cloud. I've only seen 3 swifts here at Ash Farm. They come here to feed over the pollen and nectar fields, and when the pollen beetles swarm over the overwinter wild bird seed mix here at the farm, and normally we can have 1,000 to 3,000 swifts all feeding crazily. This year they arrived, just 1 or 2, and then the cold weather kind of sent them away again. The females have either reabsorbed their eggs or jettisoned them, and they've given up nesting on many locations this year. If you've had swifts nesting close to where you live, you've been very, very lucky indeed. That cold, inclement weather meant lack of flying insects. Swifts are probably the most aerial bird in the world. Now, the good news is they are really very long-lived birds indeed. Swifts have been recorded at 20 years old and older. So they do come back to their place of birth, so they will give this year a skip, and hopefully, fingers crossed, if the weather plays ball, they'll be back next year.
And let's just talk about Jane Nicholson's email. Jane was here at High Ash having a walk last Friday. Myself and grandson Kai paying another lovely visit to High Ash. We walked around the small wooded area. We found a broken eggshell, and in fact, Jane has sent us the photograph of this eggshell. We think it might be either a red shank or a snipe. It's a buff colour, darker splotches and spots. I like that word, splotches. Can you tell us what it might be?
Yes, instantly recognisable. And we visited the little pond where the eggshell would have come from. Don't worry, the young hatched out of it. It's the eggshell of a moorhen, or water hen, as some people say. And we started this week's podcast off with a visit to that very pond and saw the youngsters. So that's what you've found. Well done, well spotted. And if you look carefully inside the shell, you'll see a little bit of red, which is the blood from the chick, which was inside there, all tucked in. And so well spotted, Kai, and well done. Thank you for the picture, which says 1,000 words.
You see, we've gone in a complete circle,
That's
haven't
it.
we?
I've been going in circles all my life, Gudgeon. Yes.
Email address, chris@countryside.podcast.co.uk. And as the sun sets on another August afternoon here at High Ash Farm, just to the south of Norwich, I will bid our listeners farewell, and you, Chris.
Oh, thank you for turning up, Matthew. It's always such a huge pleasure to share a little bit of Norfolk's wildlife with our lovely listeners. Thank you.
Even Rat enjoyed it.
Yeah, he's here cleaning his feet.
Very hygienic.
This is a Soundyard production. Music is by Tom Harris.
Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. Our new service, Spoken Stories, is an incredible experience where we record the stories and voice of your loved one, which you can then hold on to forever.
It makes for an incredible gift, and anyone can make one. Take a listen to this. It beautifully captures the thoughts and feelings of life from a 6-year-old's perspective.
I'm 6 years old and I love running around. I can run very, very fast, but I'm even faster on my bike. That's why I love biking. It makes me feel energetic. And also I bike loads of places. I like doing sports like dodgeball. The people that are in charge in the world, well, I think that there should be no one in charge at all. So everyone's in charge. So there's no person that's in charge. So everyone is it's a bit more free. That's what I think. Well, what I try to change at the moment is global warming. It's when us humans litter, destroy the planet and all its nature. That's global warming. It makes me feel sad. And also, if us humans keep doing that, and that it could destroy the whole planet Earth, and then all of the human beings will be destroyed. I try to stop global warming. And also, in my coat pocket, I have a bit of Kit Kat litter I found on the floor once. I love the planet more than anything. Grown-ups should be stopping global warming, because grown-ups are more powerful than kids. But if kids can be more powerful than grown-ups, kids and grown-ups can work together and do it. Kids should be able to do the same things as grown-ups. They should have more rights. Well, I love myself because that I believe in a lot of things. That's what I love about myself. I like being a kid, but because when I'm a grown up, I'm gonna have my own kids because that's what I want. And also, I'm a bit worried to have kids, and I'm still gonna be a kid for like a long time. So I'm glad that's actually gonna happen. I'm glad I'm gonna stay a kid for a long time. I'm gonna have kids because I want to know what it feels like to be a parent. I'm gonna be a good parent.
Isn't that just gorgeous? If you'd like to find out more about recording a spoken story of your own, or you'd like to buy this as a present for someone, take a look at our website, www.soundyard.org/spoken stories, and take advantage of our introductory offer. Alternatively, you can get in touch via email, hello@soundyard.org.
And if the internet isn't an option, you can leave a message with your details on our landline number. It's 01603 273 899, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.